Hello, everyone, and Madayo. My baby Bambi's already asleep, and I would like to continue with Genesis chapter 38. Now, this is an interesting story, and I love women in the Bible. You know why? Because they're not as, there are lots of women in the Bible, but there's not as much women here than in men. Well, because, the writer of the Bible is a man. So they only put women here if they are very significant. Actually, they put people here if they're significant. But yeah, it's even harder to get women and their name here. So, anyways, now this story is all about Judah and Tamar. Now, Judah will play a very, very, very significant role. He'll have his up and downs. So right now he's got his downs because, well, he just told his brothers to sell what's his name, Joseph, right? So, you know. Now, while Joseph is out of the picture, something else is happening here. Remember, in a span of 20-ish years, Jacob had kids. And to be exact, he has 12 sons and one daughter in a span of 20 years. So between Judah, the fourth son, and what's his name, Joseph, second to the youngest son, there is a big age gap. We're not too clear on the age gap, but we will think that by about chapter 37, Joseph would be late teens, while here, Judah is, well, he already has kids, and they're kind of grown up, or at least two of them were already grown up. So we don't know if this is like a little later and then we backtrack, because remember I told you before that the Bible kind of does that. We go forward and then we backtrack a little bit and add more details. So we don't know if this was like continuing, and there are, I think, 14 years from between they sold Joseph to the time they reunited with him. So a lot of things can happen, and one of those lots of things happen is this one. All right, so let's go. So Judah went down with his brethren to a certain Adulamite whose name is Hira, and Judah saw there's a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua, and he took her and went into her, and she conceived and bare a son and called him Okay, when you say went into her, you know what it means, okay? And she conceived again and bore him another son, Onan, and then yet again Shelah. So that's three. And he was at Chizib, and she bore him. Okay, so Judah took a wife for whose name was Tamar. So yeah, a lot of things has happened between that 14 years and now. So we don't know exactly when this timeline came about. But let's just say it's before Egypt, because they were still around Canaanite. And if you guys are wondering, wait a minute, Judah will be the one to birth the Messiah's lineage. I thought cursed be Canaan. How come there are Canaanites in his bloodline? And there will be more Canaanites in his bloodline, not just here. After we take up Joseph, when we go to Exodus, you will see some Moabites, some Canaanites into the bloodline of Jesus. Why would God do that? Wouldn't he want his line to be pure? Yes and no. Yes, in a sense that he comes from an unbroken line from Judah, but no, such that we Gentiles, we non-Jews, are actually grafted in. By the way, Jews came from Judah, Jews, okay? Get it? All right, so now back to the story. Judah got a wife for Er's kind of still young, okay? And so was Tamar. So around this time, they marry the girls the moment they have menstruation. So 13, 14, 15, they're married off. So usually men would be older, but for some reason, Judah married her off, or married his son off at a young age. So his firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord. So, maybe Judah hasn't really raised his son right. So he became a very wicked person, Maybe he's a spoiled brat. Because remember, by this time, Jacob or Israel was still super duper 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 rich. Maybe he became spoiled, something. And because, eldest son syndrome, and yeah, he got so. We don't know how the Lord slew him, accident or sickness. Anyways, this is where kinsman redeemer come in, and you will have a lot of kinsman redeemer later. And by the way, Jesus will be our ultimate kinsman redeemer later, but here first. Okay, so the second guy was the same. Okay, so Onan the second is thy brother's wife, and usually what happens is, if the firstborn's wife did not have a kid, the second will have to take her as his wife or one of his wives and marry her and then have kids with her, but the kids will be not known as his kids, it will be known as the first guy's kids. Get it? So that the first guy will not be forgotten. But on the flip side, Judah will give whatever share of to that guy, to the son. Well, Onan didn't like that. And so what he did is he spilled his seed onto the ground. Get it? He withdrew and just bleh at the ground. Okay. So I know, kind of gory details there, or not very kiddie details. But anyways, that did not please the Lord. He's like, nope, nope, nope. You're supposed to be like from, Judah's line. And here you got Onan, who doesn't want to have like kids. So, well, suffice to say, God got angry and dead too. And Judah's like, oh my gosh, what if Tamar is the cursed one? What if my third son would die in the process too? So he's so what's this scared. He sends Tamar back home and says, I'll call you when my son grows up, because Shiloh's only 13 or something, or young. When he gets older. Now Tamar is patient, and she kept waiting until she heard that, hey, wait a minute, the guy's already old. How come he hasn't called for me yet? Because people back then, even back then, they talk. And well, so she decided, you don't want to, I'm gonna do something, and I'm gonna do it myself. So what she did is very bold. So we will think that by this time Tamar would be mid-20s. So she puts on garb and a veil and makes herself look like a prostitute, and waited by the wayside, and just timed it that this guy was going and coming back from the harvest festival. After harvest, you see, they have big celebration, and they often include a lot of wine. So Daddy Judah over here is kind of soused, drunk, and sees a prostitute on the road, and he's like, how much? And he's like, how much can you afford? And it's like, oh, great, I don't have my wallet with me, but can I give you something to, as a guarantee that I'm coming back and paying you? And she said, okay, give me your signet, your bracelet, and your staff. And then when you come back with payment, I'll return it to you. All right, so they do the deed. And then Judah, the next day, is like, oh, I'm sending you some money and a goat. Go to the wayside and look for the prostitute, and there. But couldn't find the girl again. So Judah's like, whatever. Now it came to pass about how many months later, well, it says here 3, Tamar was with child, or he found out Tamar was with child. And he's like, oh my gosh, I wonder who she slept with. And so she wanted Tamar to be stoned. And then, so Tamar came. So I'm just speeding this up, guys. Tamar came, and guess what she has on her hands? I'm going to cut here because we're nearly 10 minutes, but this is interesting. So bear with me on part 2.